Om Namo Venkateshaya. Today we are going to discuss a very interesting sign in the entire of astrology which is ruled by moon, which is Cancer. Interestingly, it is the only sign which is ruled by moon, and as July comes, a lot of people who are Cancerians would be facing too much emotions. But in reality, they actually face emotions on a daily basis at a much higher volume compared to others. Why is that so? Because the moon would be moving from sign to sign in a much more fast forward fashion compared to, let's say, somebody who is a Capricorn or somebody who is an Aquarius, and Saturn is moving only once in 2 to 2.5 years. So that is the level of difference in terms of processing emotions Cancerians actually take, because they would be experiencing all of that storm together within a month span or two itself, and you would see them actually being able to deal with it and then make some sense out of it. So let's today fundamentally understand how Cancerians function. What are their likings which they actually have? What do they seek in relationships? How does money work out for them? How do they behave with you? What are their natural tendencies? What are their rewards in life? Are they spiritual enough or not? And we will go in depth of every possible aspect that a Cancerian would face or react towards within their life. So let's understand what are the first impressions which a Cancer person leaves on the other person. When we talk about the physical appearance of a Cancer person, usually they are stout, sometimes they are actually majestic. But one very interesting feature that you would see is that they look slightly chubby compared to other people. They look slightly more indulging compared to other people. And they actually look very cute. We can't characterize the Cancerian folks as very fat all the time. You would actually not be able to pinpoint that that person is so fat. No, they would be looking very cutely chubby in their own zones, and they are actually happy about that. And one very interesting feature you would notice in a Cancer person is that they would have a much more broad chest compared to others. They have a much more developed chest area compared to others. And in the gym also, even in physical regimes, you would see that such people get or develop chest related areas much faster compared to others in terms of gaining results. Moreover, a Cancer person is usually too much emotional from inside, but it's not necessarily that they would actually be able to promote that or give out that projection outwards fully. And they would have a very physically calming appearance all the time. You would actually feel that they are very serene. It is also possible that if a Cancer doesn't want you to notice them, they can easily slide past you and still not be able to gain any attention out of the entire situation. That is how serene and calm their presence is. And they are very soft hearted as well, many a times. Moreover, you would see that they actually prefer comforting activities more. They are not so indulgent into physical activities too much. If you tell a Cancer, do you want to chill right now and watch a movie? They would be like, oh yes, sure thing, let me walk you through the entire comfort zone of how to watch a movie the best possible way to feel elevated from it. And they would actually manifest that comfort zone for you at home, whether it's in form of a beautiful pillow, the decor, everything. The entire setup would be so vibey when you are staying up with the Cancer. But the moment you say, okay, let's step out and let's go for this trek, suddenly you have made plans. The Cancer person would initially hesitate a lot, but chances are you won't be able to pinpoint them fully. They would try to convince you indirectly to stay back at home, but then if they actually love you, they would just go ahead with the flow and indulge into that activity. But they are going to complain about you making or forcing them to go for such situations, and they don't really enjoy that. Moreover, it's a sign that advocates and has came on this planet to enjoy comforts, to relish pleasures. Now, not necessarily that they would actually get comforts and pleasures. It's just that they enjoy that. That's their natural instinct, that they actually want to feel comfortable, and they can manifest a zone of comfort literally anywhere. Even in the most stressed out situations, you would see that a Cancer has a very calming effect. and they actually promote this. They have this natural quality of nurturing when it comes to understanding people, and they apply the same quality to themselves. Though there is a complete imbalance in terms of the volume of nurturing when it comes to themselves and when it comes to serving other people, a cancer person is likely to develop very strong emotional biases for the people they love, and then they start over caring for them, over nurturing them, and they start ignoring themselves quite a lot. We would understand why of all this also happens in detail as we proceed with this video. But in case you are able to relate, don't forget to hit the like button and the subscribe button so that you can check out other content whenever I am posting it, and you stay tuned for much more detailed content on astrology that would just mind blow you away. Now, coming back, how cancer is actually in terms of just physical presence or individuality. A Cancerian person, as mentioned, would be very calming. These people would be slightly chubby on the side, but they would actually appear cute. And the most interesting part about them, just like Pisces, they know how to conceal their chubbiness very nicely. You can't pinpoint by their dressing sense that they are actually fat. They know how to conceal their tummy very nicely. And they also get really frustrated out of that entire weight gain scenarios. Now, why does that happen that a cancer naturally gains much more weight? Now, because it's a very emotional sign, their emotional health matters like crazy. If they get stressed out, the body automatically reacts as if they need more weight. If they get too much happy, the body again naturally reacts as if they need more weight. If they drink water, it would actually make or contribute to higher amount of gain in weight compared to other people. This is because the Cancerian body is naturally of a Kapha Tattva type, which means that their body type is Kaph, and they would have more amount of water volume usually compared to others. Moreover, their emotional health is actually highly contributive towards deciding whether they would indulge or get good weight gains or not. For a cancer, gaining weight is actually not a problem. The bigger problem is the fat that comes along with that, and then they later on point in time they regret losing all of that together. But you would notice one very beautiful thing, because the moon rules these Cancerian people, they can undergo very serious fluctuations very fast. Like if a cancer decides that I want to go to a physical regime and gym, and they have actually the willpower, trust me, that doesn't ever happen. They won't, continue for a very long time. These people are known for inconsistency. Why that happens, we will talk about that in detail as well. But if they ever decide to step out of that comfort zone extremely, then they actually lose weight quite a lot. You won't be able to pinpoint that this was the same person. But the moment they get an emotional, stressful situation at a later point in time, all that weight comes back to them and very fast, that you won't be able to identify this was the same person who went to gym last year and was so slim and trim back then when I met them. That is how a Cancerian body fundamentally works. Because it's a Kapha Tattva, they are also prone to higher ailments of seasonal changes. You would see that a Cancerian gets respiratory issues, or sometimes, allergies, and sometimes you would see that in general, common cold and flu catches them early on compared to other people. They are a little bit more sensitive to that, and that is why one of the reasons that you would see that they are very particular about their hygiene as well. Now, why does that happen also? We will talk about that in detail. It is because they have a fourth house being ruled by Libra, moreover, that this exists. Now, some of you might come and say whether this is for rising, moon, sun. Now, that's a very subjective question. I would make a different video to address to those queries, but at the moment, try to understand and relate, irrespective of your sign, how a cancer actually feels or reacts. So that is how a cancer would be maintaining very good hygiene all the time. Not because they actually love it, but because they know that if they don't, they are prone to ailments such as common cold, cough, flu, and that leads to a lot of emotional stress for them. And that is why they prefer to keep things clean compared to others. And that comes or translates back as a natural tendency in them to nurture. When somebody has a phobia of germs, when somebody has an OCD about hygiene, the person tries to take care of a lot of things. And out of the things, they came and react or give the same reaction to even people around them. Right. So when they actually react to people also in the same fashion, they become or start acting very motherly. That is why this sign is ruled by moon. And we always relate moon to mothers. That is the representation. We always relate sun to fathers and moon to mothers. We always relate sun to king and moon to queens. And that is what Cancer stands for. Now, a lot of Cancer men are going to come at me and say, "Oh my God, what are you saying?" And to them also, I would say that it is true even for you people to a certain extent. You have this habit to take care of other person, and sometimes you start finding sanity in taking care of the other person because your individual self is so receptive to people that you want naturally to take care of them. Many a times it also creates problems for you on your own, but that is how it is. You just enjoy it. You find a beautiful sense of satisfaction to your individuality when you are taking care of somebody else. And that is what it really means to be a Cancerian person. The reason they are lucky and the reason that luck actually doesn't work out fully for them, we'll talk about that later. It's because Cancerian peoples are very nurturing. And sometimes this nurturing quality, which we always think is actually a gold asset to them, backlashes when it starts becoming manipulative. So, this sign is not out of manipulation. They can become extremely manipulative, extremely vengeful also, and they define their individual self being vengeful as well, you would see. But at the same time, you would be able to relate to this idea that overall they are quite well off go to people with a lot of resources all the time. Moreover, whenever they try to become too thin or whenever they try to project the insecurity about their physical presence upon themselves, they gain more weight. So they shouldn't do that. For example, a very relatable example you would actually be able to understand is imagine when Ben Affleck became Batman. Everybody was like that he needs to be more fit. It's not like Ben Affleck, being a Cancer rising, wasn't fit. He was actually fit, but he was broad chested. He was a little bit of a heavier compared to others. I'm not judging their acting abilities at the moment, but the overall idea being that people couldn't fully relate to Ben Affleck as a Batman because he was slightly on the chubbier side, even though he was fit about it. So that is what it really means to be Cancer's physical presence. It's a little bit intimidating for other people. Sometimes people don't enjoy that, and some people specifically want that. Again, depends on their respective placements. But one thing which a Cancer person needs to learn and should always ensure, never ever let your physical presence become your insecurity. It can cause you further weight gains. So instead of thinking about that, try working out upon it instead and try to understand your body's needs fully and how to navigate it and never become insecure or emotional because of that. Try to be always happy go lucky about it. People love you for who you are, not just for your physical presence, and you are capable of having the best results out of a physical regimes and gym. So go ahead with that. Never ever feel insecure about your body weight or etc. It could lead to a lot of repercussions for your emotional health. And for you, always remember as a Cancer, emotional health, that tendency to feel a sense of belonging, that tendency to nurture other people matters much more than all of this. So that is what it is all about for you folks, right? Now let's understand, how does a Cancer behave? What does a Cancer really like? Is a Cancer a very foodie person? Well, you could already make out from the fact that they are always slightly chubby and prone to weight gains that a person would be extremely foodie, right? And that is very much true. But a Cancer's foodie, things which they really love to eat and consume, comes out from their sun. Because the second house is being ruled by Leo, you would notice this very much in a Cancer person, that they would really love to indulge into things that have a very fine sense of royalty associated with it. These people won't be eating anything which you would serve them. They are very nitpicky, very particular, and they have very high level of or high standard of choices which they want to consume. Because these people naturally love comfort, they naturally love pleasures, they naturally love to always keep themselves in a high amount of luxury, you would see that their food habits reciprocate a very similar vibe. They would love to go for a fine dine and enjoy the royal menu over there. And they are so well versed about all the food places around them that they exactly know where to find what at what moment. But they actually like to step out? A big, simple answer to that would be no. A cancer person would prefer a home delivery app like Swiggy, Zomato, or DoorDash to deliver all that luxurious food back to their homes, or they would prefer that they want to cook that luxurious food by themselves. And they are actually excellent cooks also. You would normally see that cancer people love to do cooking, especially if Mars is well placed. If Mars is not that well placed, you would see that the cancer person, learns cooking in a very compelled fashion. When the time arises that there is a necessity for them to actually cook and there is no alternative option, that is when they start learning it, and that comes in their lives at some point in time or other. And therefore you cannot rule out that a cancer doesn't know how to cook. They know how to nurture. They know everything that can be used as a potential tool to nurture others, and cooking being one of their strong suits within them. They love to eat as much they love to feed other people, and that is how they relate over there. Also, you would see that despite all the sweet demeanor, the calming presence, a cancer person is actually very rude when it comes to their speech. They are very brutally honest many a times. Sometimes they have a very sarcastic sense of humor. They would be taking double digs on you. Sometimes they would be giving you a compliment and you would actually realize it later that that was such a bad dig. And this is fundamentally very different from a Sagittarius or a Gemini who do this indirectly. They are pretty brutally honest about a lot of things. That's what characterizes the Cancer person much more, you would say. And they are quite unabashed about it. The interesting part is, if you do the same thing with them, they get very defensive and they get hurt very fast because they are super sensitive about that, and they are super sensitive about their insecurities. But one thing that comes with feeling so much emotions is the fun fact that if somebody already knows which emotion causes the maximum amount of pain and trauma, and they have learned to overcome that, don't you think they can use or recreate the same scenario and emotion in somebody else's life and give them an equal amount or greater amount of trauma? And that holds very true for Cancer folks. And they don't like to regulate their words. They like to be very unabashed about a lot of things, and they are pretty direct about it. So that is what really characterizes their way of speech. And they have a very authoritative voice, by the way. You would notice this. A Cancer can be very calming. You won't even pay attention to them while sitting in a room of full of 12 or 13 people. But the moment they start speaking, the entire room's attention is now revolving around that person who is a Cancer. They have a voice that likes to mobilize and keep things. When you want to relate to that, you can see the chart of Indira Gandhi, one of the ex-prime ministers of India, and she was a Cancer rising, obviously, and her way of oration. She knew how to win over people even though she might be in the wrong. So that is the level of conviction and authoritativeness a Cancer can bring in their speech. And once they have overcome all these emotions, they actually become brilliant orators. And it is because they have a very huge stage fright that we will talk about now. Now, one interesting thing about Cancer is that they are naturally very beautiful folks. It's because they are gifted with the power of moon that contributes to a very calming aura. And this beauty is fundamentally very different from what a Libra or a Taurus is like. A Libra or a Taurus would have a sense of attraction, a charisma that makes people come to them and want them to talk with them. A Cancer is not that type. A Cancer is somebody who is sweet and very quiet and silent, and you could see the calming presence of their aura very much. And therefore, they are very shy in expressing themselves. And usually, you would see that a Cancer person, even though they become very good orators at a later age, are extremely silent in their childhood. They would either suffer from stage frights, they have insecurities about expressing themselves, they don't want to open up easily to people, and all of this is contributed by the fact that they are very analytical and judgmental folks at the same time. Especially when it comes to making friends, you would see that a Cancer person struggles a little bit, and slowly their experiences are as such that they start filtering friends very carefully. It is because a Cancer person has this habit of doing a vibe judgment very fast in selecting their friends. What does a vibe judgment mean? A Cancer person, because they have a third house of communication and friendship ruled by Virgo, would always try to analyze other people around them. And when somebody is analyzing someone else, one thing that is a common denominator in them is that they would be extremely silent. They would be silent and observing like a hawk. What is the other person's behavior? How does the other person react? What is the liking of the other person? What are the dislikes of the other person? Is the other person being authentic? Is this person even worth talking to? Is this person worth being vulnerable to? And the most important $1 million question for a Cancer, is this person worth sacrificing for? Because they have this natural tendency to nurture others. So eventually you would see that they get cheated by a lot of people. And since they are cheated by a lot of people, they get suspicious about anybody new entering into their lives. And that's a natural instinct which the Cancer person has from childhood experiences alone. And later, when it transitions to adulting, they become super selective and insecure about their close loved ones, because they have seen maximum amount of betrayal from their close loved ones only. That is how things really shape up for them. Moreover, you would see that usually a Cancer person would have a good amount of support from their family, but because family is very resourceful, many a times if it is Cancer, you would see that their fathers or mothers are associated with the government as well, directly or indirectly. They could be in a very small role, they could be having their own set of family businesses as well. But one thing that is characterized for these people is the fact that they get super insecure because their parents are very controlling over them. And because their parents are so controlling over them, they also develop this natural tendency when they are approaching people in terms of friendships and relationships. They also get very over possessive, and this possessiveness is very different from of Taurus or Scorpio. This possessiveness is about nurturing. This is like, I want to sacrifice for you a lot. And since I have decided to sacrifice for you, I will do anything for you. We will talk about this later when we talk about the Cancer's relationships, but that is what really defines them. And therefore, they take a very long time to open up to people. And their communication is very dual as well. What we mean by that is, if you have befriended a Cancer person before, or if you are a Cancer yourself, you would notice this very prominently inside you, that you are extremely silent initially with another person, and suddenly when you have vibed with that person, you open up like it was never before. You become so talkative, you enjoy their presence, and you form a very strong attachment to them. And sometimes this attachment is one sided. That is how it is characterized for you. That is how it is really all the time for you. And you also have a very strong stage fright because you are insecure about speaking your mind without having some data backing it. So your mind is always analytically thinking very fast. And therefore, at a later stage in life, once you have overcame your stage fright, once you are in better position to express yourself, you become excellent orators. because you exactly know the definition of what, how, why, and when. And you cover all of that together in the way you communicate. That is the level of communication you bring on the table, right? And you will continue to have that silent aura where you won't like to speak to anybody at even workplaces at a later point in time in your life that easily. That is something that you carry from childhood and it continues like a natural instinct. A Cancer person doesn't like to do the small talk like a Venusian person. A Taurus or a Libra person can any day outclass you in terms of talking with people. They attract a lot of people. You yourself are a little jealous of such people. It is because you feel that I have more beauty and more amount of charisma hidden inside of me compared to a Venus person. But why are they surpassing me all the time when it comes to social settings, especially? And to be able to understand that, you should step out of the comparison loop. But usually, you would always feel a little bit inferior compared to these signs when it comes to social settings. Now, one very, very interesting thing you would note about a Cancer person is that the way they decorate their homes is amazing. You would see that they have this natural tendency or natural superpower, you can say, that even if you are putting a Cancer person in a very dingy place, or even if you are putting a Cancer person in a very untidy place, because they are so hygiene driven, because they have this very weird sense of aesthetics, they are going to transform that small dingy place also into one hell of a nirvana utopia, and that utopia is going to vibe so much comfort energy outside it, and they know exactly how to decorate their entire thing. If you want to ever understand or you want to know a very good sense of room decoration, a very good sense of how to create or transform your house into a home, try visiting a Cancer person's home once. You would see the smallest amount of nitty gritty details and interesting observations, and moreover the energy presence in their house is so amazing that you would be super surprised with it. Some people would actually say and go ahead and appreciate the way Cancers maintain their homes. You would see that they are very lazy people. Let's not mince our words about it. They are super lazy people. Even if they are super lazy, lethargic, not interested to work, one thing that is very sorted out for them all the time is the way they still manage to decorate their homes, the way they still manage to organize their things around. You would see that if a Cancer is in a mood swing phase where they are being super lethargic, super languid, that time also, while doing Netflix and chill in their own words, you would see that everything is so organized. The chips packet is right where the hand goes, the bottle is right where it should be, and the pillows are right where it is gonna make your body feel super happy and comfortable. The mobile is right where the charger is nearby, so you don't have to move all that much. And that attention to detail so that they don't have to indulge into physical work is just splendid, and you would be so surprised by it, and you would be like, oh my god, this person knows how to enjoy pleasures, this person knows how to be happy in depression. You would actually be able to observe this because these people have a very natural way to feel emotions too much of time, so they are going to be depressed naturally quite a lot of times, especially if somebody has moved on, but they really know how to come out of that phase very fast as well, right? It's a different matter that they don't come fast very out, but you would know and observe this, that this doesn't come naturally to other people. All of these ideas about comfort orientedness, these are natural things which a Cancer picks up. And the way they would decorate their place, again mentioning that, is such a beautiful vibe. They have a keen aesthetic eye, they are so discerning about the energy presence also in the room, like the way they would evaluate how sunlight and ventilation is working in this home. Based on that, they would actually start organizing things in such a way that the same place which was being, let's say, managed by somebody like a lazy Piscean, or let's say somebody like a supercharged Leo or an Aries person, would transform into a utopia that never existed before. That is the level a Cancer can bring in terms of a home decoration. Moreover, they have very good assets usually in their life. They usually have the support and resources of their parents. It's a different matter that they like to be in denial about it. They hate when somebody makes them count it, that you are blessed with that. They would still not agree with me on this. But one thing which they should always do is be a little bit acknowledging about their blessings, no matter what. No matter how hard your life becomes, which always usually becomes because you feel so much emotions, you are never resource deprived. You are still getting your 2 meals of the day. You have not seen that huge amount of struggle with, let's say, somebody who is, Capricorn might be able to tell. And that doesn't mean that you aren't seeing struggle. Trust me, you would be seeing so many problems and obstacles in your life. Sometimes these obstacles are created by you yourself also. You have this self sabotaging tendency as well. So we'll talk about that as well. But moreover, usually you would see that you are quite blessed in terms of satisfaction. At a later point in time, this becomes one of the biggest assets for a Cancer person, is that they know that they are tripped. That means they are satisfied, they are happy, and they come in terms of acceptance of what they have. And this is a very beautiful quality. No matter how low or how high you actually get, you know how to eventually learn to acknowledge materialism. You know how to acknowledge the blessings of Lakshmi. This is a very, very important and very beautiful quality in you. And never ever change that. Never question your conviction about that also. When somebody comes and tells you to chase after money, or somebody comes and tells you to chase after ambition, you do both of best of both the worlds. Never try to think what the other person is trying to project on you, because you are extremely receptive also, right? Being ruled by moon. So always have more conviction upon your own gut instinct. Now, as we were discussing Cancer, now let's understand what really happens when a Cancer person gets a child, or when a Cancer person seeks a relationship, and how does a Cancer person's intelligence and development of mind and intellectual ability happens in their life. Now, as I mentioned earlier, you could now understand how beautifully our entire system of astrology is placed when you see that a Cancer has a fifth house ruled by Scorpio, or a Cancer is always 5 houses behind Scorpio. That means whenever a Cancer has a kid, or whenever Cancer tries to treat somebody else's kid also, they are one super nurturing people. They would spoil the child like crazy. They would always relate back to their childhood when they were not given all those resources which they were desiring. A Cancer person or a Cancer child is extremely sensitive. If you have, ever scolded back a Cancer child, you would see in them that they would never ever do the same wrong thing ever again. They take it way too personally. In fact, to scold a Cancer child, I would say that never ever indulge into physical, violence or any of that activities. Rather, even if you just make a sarcastic comment on them, it is more than enough to hurt them on an emotional level, and they change and mend their behaviors very fast. But if you ever demean such a person with such a pure heart initially, you would see that these people eventually become very, very sad, and they won't even project that emotion outward. They would carry that inside of their hearts till their adulting. And once they have reached the adulting, once they have the children of their own, they will have this habit of never correcting their children, even if the children is in the wrong. Now that becomes a problematic scenario. That is what it actually means when we say the fifth house from Cancer is ruled by Scorpio. Because these people will have a natural tendency to provide all the possible resources to their child. They themselves know how to enjoy pleasures, and they would induce this quality in the child. Moreover, since they are overprotective and over nurturing, many a times you would see that a Cancer as a parent becomes too controlling. They just don't want the child to even face 1 ounce of challenge in their life. They are like, I am there for you. I am here to nurture you. I am here to take care of you. You don't have to do anything. Try ever being a problem to a cancer parent's child, and you would see the calm presence getting into an uproar. The way I would describe is you would see, and you would see this in Cancer rising or Cancer moon or any Cancer prominent sun also placements, that their parents are super protective of them. You would see this ability in that also. You would see and resonate this. Let's say that you have had the worst fight with your mother. Very common in cancer people. They don't agree with their mothers at all many a times. But tomorrow, if somebody comes out and tries to create problems or chaos in your life, the first person who would transform from Parvati to Mahakali to deal with that person who has created chaos in life is your mother. And you know that innerly. And your mother, who has such a calming presence, would suddenly transform into a complete angry person and went out and not just defend you, but in very simple Hindi, make a vidvans out of the entire scenario. And that is one of the strong reasons a cancer person, despite sometimes having a toxic mother, are way too attached with them. They just are so attached with their mothers, and their mothers play a very huge role in the life of such a child. No matter how much you disagree with your mother, you still innerly seek validation from her. No matter how controlling or possessive your mother might be, you still innerly respect and have so much amount of love for her. And you have, learned the way you are loving other people, the way you are navigating relationships in your real life, you would see that there is some sort of projection in handling people the way your mother handles people. A mother's role in a cancer child's or a cancer person's life is extremely imminent. It is extremely significant and very important. And if a cancer's mother actually, doesn't do the things right way or is a little bit non-receptive towards their child, you could see the amount of repercussions and bad results which happen with such people, because they are going to hold all those grudges inside of them, and they are going to feel extremely sad about it. A lot of times this is very common. And at the same time, if they have a very happy-go-lucky relationship with their mother, they feel so rejuvenated, they feel so happy about so many things, that they are so much in a different league or a zone. They get enthusiastic, they are full of energy, they become ambitious, they grow hell a lot in their life if the relationship with a mother is mended for a cancer person. So always keep that in mind. A mother is of utmost importance to you. No matter how bad your relation with a mother goes, you need to eventually either learn to accept it or try to mend it. If you actually are able to mend it, good for you. If it is not something that can be changed, it also creates a very different growth in your life. You start using that hatred you have developed as a reinforcement to grow in your life. Either scenarios, a mother's role is extremely prominent and significant in terms of contributing to your growth, whether it is out of love for her or whether it is out of hate for her. But that is how things are. And that is one of the reasons you become a very over nurturing parent yourself. And you should always keep a check in your child's future that they should learn the value of resources that you have acquired for them. Don't become a parent that would eventually get everything which your child has asked for, just because you are able to project your childhood trauma that when I used to ask for these resources, I was not given for it. Remember that you are a person who used to feel a sense of responsibility along with asking for resources. This is not always true for your child too, unless they are also cancer placements. That is a different scenario. Okay. Now, you always take things with a sense of responsibility very fast, right? The reason is you don't like when people hate you. You can play all that on face that no, we don't care about people's feeling, we have moved on, we become rigid. and we have, no interest in seeking validation from people, blah blah blah. That is true, okay, to a certain extent, but innerly you know that you don't want any hatred from somebody, and you always try to unnecessarily try and reconcile with them. Many a times it created backlashes for both the sides. I'll explain that why, but that is how things really shape up over here. Now, when it comes to romance, Cancer people love to indulge into it so much. They have a very natural knack, and they have usually high libido. Being ruled by Moon, they know how to relish things. They sometimes enjoy being clingy as well. They enjoy soft action quite a lot, and they know how to make the other person feel that amount of elevation which they are feeling. And moreover, because they are five houses from that is Scorpio, they are extremely intense about this. You would see a Cancer person is more interested in the romance than actually doing the action of physical pleasure or having coitus as well. The reason is that for them, all of this matters quite a lot. If you want to win the heart of a Cancer person, try to pick up their emotional cues. Try to be a little bit clingy with them. Try to show some gestures to them. Try to have their hands hold it in your hands. They feel so energized by it, and it's one of their dreams to have a sense of belonging with a little bit of a physical touch all the time. That is what it really means for them. Moreover, they are very insecure about this as well, because they are bound to find and develop emotional biases the moment somebody shows even a slight amount of attachment for them. And when they feel that there is a slight amount of action taken by you, in terms of taking a step forward, a Cancer starts taking that as an indication that now I need to move 10 steps forwards towards you. You are taking one step forward in a relationship with them, they are taking 10 steps forward. And they would start sacrificing for you, they would start super caring for you. You won't be able to fully make out that is this the same person who was actually so rude on the streets when I met them. That is the level of difference which comes in their actions eventually. And the bigger issue is because 7th from Cancer is Capricorn, irrespective of the rising moon or sun, whatever you want to take, you would say that, these people develop emotional biases very, very fast. The simple reason they are developing emotional biases very, very fast is because they see one small act of kindness which you have projected towards them, and they see that this is a person who deserves nurturing from me, who deserves my attention. And the moment they do that, they pick up the entire challenge which Saturn has given them, being 7th from them, that do not ever develop attachments to the extent that you forget logic, and they forget the logic. They are the people who think with their heart and they forget about their mind and their brain's presence, and they start sacrificing for you. Now the interesting part gets, whenever this scenario happens, right, there could be two scenarios existent for them. The first scenario might be that the other person is coming with an intention to cheat them, right? Now, since the other person is coming with the intention to cheat them, once their usage is completed, they move on from them. The bigger issue is the Cancer person has developed such a strong emotional bias for this person that they would continue sacrificing for them. And it's not like that this is something that they don't know. Don't think that. They are so intuitive that they know that they have been played. They are so intuitive that they know they have been cheated. And still they would try to show from their moral actions by taking the higher moral burden that I am still ready to sacrifice for you. Boss, recognize this in me and come back. Okay. And they expect you to turn over a new leaf, which almost never happens in a 1 on 10. It's like literally a 1 on 10 probability, not even that, for this to happen, right? So that is how things are. And let's say the flip scenario, that you had the best interests of the Cancer person, they made it so one-sided in terms of taking nurturing of you even when you are not asking for it, that you start feeling guilty and you just push them away from your life. Okay, because you just don't know how to reciprocate it back. But in reality, you would see that a Cancer doesn't expect you to actually reciprocate back to them. All they want is one very small word of thanks or one very small acknowledgement. That acknowledgement might be silent also. They would still pick up the emotional cues that you are, impressed and acknowledge their presence in your life, and they feel that they are needed in your life. The moment you finish that dependency on the Cancer person, they start feeling insecure and they react in a very bad and unhealthy fashion. They are going to feel that since they are no longer needed in your life, they don't mean anything, and sometimes a Cancer will shun the other person basis that. And trust me, the other person also faces so much trauma because of this behavior of Cancer, but that is how it is. It is like Cancer will try to project their insecurity upon the other person in this scenario. But in the earlier scenario, the other person tries to misuse them and then throw them away, causing trauma. Now, the only common denominator that existed in either of the scenarios is interestingly trauma. So that is what it is all about for Cancer. That is one of the strong reasons that they feel so emotional, they feel so judged by a lot of people, and they become emotionally driven. The moment they have formed a very strong attachment, people drift away from them slowly. The only way a Cancer can actually make a relationship work is by being in denial or detachment with it, which might sound toxic, but it is the natural energy of their seventh from it, right? Saturn being the seventh from a Cancer all the time, you would see that if a Cancer person is a little bit detached from the other person, is trying to strongly make boundaries with the other person, that boss, I am sacrificing for you. For example, I am cooking for you, you are going to office, you are coming back home, you are as much tired as I am, so now Swiggy for me. Okay, when you have made that boundary very clear, instead of over exerting yourself and taking care of the other person, despite knowing that both of you are equally tired and exhausted, that is the moment the relationship starts working. And actually, the Cancer person feels very insecure about doing this. Trust me, they do. Because they feel now the other person will start judging them that this person used to be so caring, what happened? But trust me, the other person takes it the right way when you do this. And they say, boss, finally, I am so happy that you have learned to take a stand for yourself and learn to say no. And I am rejoiced by it, and let's vibe together. That is how your relationship starts working so beautifully. Now let's understand, how does a Cancer normally react to routines and what is their tendency of working? Now, sixth from the Cancer is always Sagittarius. So this Sagittarius contributes to one initial thing apart from the service and all the strategies and competition, is that a Cancer person is gonna have stomach problems for their life. And this is something that all the water signs share as a common denominator. Try to notice this, a very interesting way, how the entire system of astrology is so well thought out. Any water sign, the second from that water sign and the sixth from that water sign will always be a fire sign. Try to see that. Whether it is Scorpio or Pisces, also the other water signs, the second from them will be a fire sign and the sixth from them will be a fire sign. So this shows that these people are naturally so inclined to be huge foodies and they overconsume. These are the set of people who would stress eat. These are the set of people who develop very huge amount of sugar rushes and they want to satisfy their sugar cravings like crazy. And because they are a Kapha Tattva body, because they are normally ruled by the water element more, you would see that these people see and indulge into everything which they shouldn't be indulging into, especially they have a very sweet tooth, and then it kind of backlashes for them. And then they face indigestion, they face gastric problems. Sometimes it does get chronic for them as well. Moreover, they get very huge weight gains from it. And the way they develop, or they have, you can say that they are more prone to getting a little bit addicted to stress eating, because they start using consuming things and eating as a natural coping mechanism to stress as well, to a certain extent. And this is why you would see that Cancer people are no different from other water signs in that you would see that they like to stress eat, they like to indulge a lot into it, they get overwhelmed by competition. Sometimes they feel that we need to make sure that the other person is also feeling kind of okay, that we are their enemies or we are their competition. This tendency to even be able to sympathize with your enemy is a very Cancerian thing. If you want to evaluate, or if you watch animes, I'm not sure. If you have watched Bleach and the latest arc in that, you could see the Squad Force captain, Unohana. In the end, the way she dies, even while dying, she fought Squad 11 captain of the Aquarius, Zaraki Kenpachi, and the way she died was to make sure that the Aquarius person realizes their true power. That is the amount of sacrifice and feeling of sympathy and empathy a Cancer can bring into a relationship, and more importantly, even for their own set of competition. Right? So that is what it is all about. And when somebody is sixth from Cancer being ruled by Sagittarius, you would see that these people overcome their competition through their intellect. These people cannot overcome their competition by hard work. They know that they would fail if they go into that direction. Right, so you won't see Cancer people making too much efforts. Now, let's say if a Cancer child is supposed to prepare for competitive exams, or if they are just giving an exam in general from their school or college times, notice this one very beautiful trend in them. A Cancer person will first of all be the first person in the entire room to go and check out the previous year papers. Okay, and then they would see what are the repeat questions, and they're gonna come up with a huge strategy that this was the one which was repeated the maximum times, I will practice this 2 times. This was the one which came only once, I'll practice this only once. This was the one which was never repeated. It's okay, I don't want to expedite more energy, I'm happy with the marks I am passing. So that is how they deal with it, and this is a natural instinct in them, which is very beautiful. They handle competition with a lot of strategy, and they know how to do it very well, and they get very manipulative about it as well, right? So you would see that these people overcome all their problems, obstacles in life with a very huge strategic thinking, and they develop a strong niche in it. And you would see that fundamentally this resonates with their fourth and third house very much. Their third house being ruled by Virgo, three away from Cancer is always Virgo. So these people analyze things, analyze even their own efforts, and they would analyze whether it is even worth spending my effort and energy in that direction or not. If they don't get that analysis correct, right, they won't be motivated enough to even get up from their bed and actually be able to contribute there. So you cannot come to a Cancer person and tell boss be hardworking. They are like, that's just not our thing. Okay. And moreover, you would see them work like rabbits as well. So the 10th from Cancer is always Aries, you would see. So the interesting part about Cancer over here becomes that even though they are very silent, very calming, but they are very aggressive when it comes to working, you would see that these people always get promoted fast compared to others if Mars is supporting them. If not, then it's problematic. Now, the thing interesting about it, irrespective whether they see a growth in their life or not, they are going to be super aggressive about their work. They take their work with a lot of seriousness, and moreover, since they hate, people coming out and demeaning them out of their childhood experiences that I explained, that they are very sensitive folks. You won't have to tell a Cancer child twice to study. They take that as a self responsibility and know that they have to study. So these people take, before somebody comes and pinpoints on them, they want everything in a perfect fashion. But how is their tendency to work? They would work like rabbits. If you have, read about the rabbit and turtle story, I feel that is such a classic moon Saturn depiction in general, that the turtle slowly goes ahead, the rabbit moves and runs that level fast. Suddenly the rabbit is like, now I'm in a zone, I feel I'm in a comfort now, and the turtle eventually surpasses him. So that is what a cancer is all about. A cancer works 72 hours regularly, consistently. Let's say they get obsessed about their work very fast. They would put 3 days of their time working and doing nothing else. And then suddenly, once the task is finished, they are chilling for the next 4 days. They don't want to work. So, this is how the natural tendency of a cancer is when it comes to service and their work in general. Moreover, this sounds nice from a high level overview, right? That a cancer person works like a rabbit, puts in a lot of consistent hours, and then takes a chill period. So, that's the happy flow about it. But imagine, since they are so emotional, if they are not seeing result at the end of 72 hours now, they would eventually switch tracks to something else. And they get bored out of things very fast. So it's very difficult for cancer to learn and develop consistency in their life. We'll talk about how to approach that if you are a cancer person, but that is what it is, right? You feel it's very hard for you to be consistent in any given thing. You always have this idea, because 10 houses away from cancer is always ruled by Mars. You would see that this person advocates this tagline quite a lot. The UDJ tagline of do what you love and love what you do. They actually advocate this quite a lot. And since they advocate this quite a lot, they have to feel the thrill in the job that they are doing. And chances are they reiteratively are stuck in boring jobs. And when that happens with them, eventually they realize that, okay, this is really not my thing. And eventually, many a times, you would see at a later age, a cancer person does have the inclination to bend towards politics or even business of their own. It is because they really want to see a sense of gratification with what they are giving out as a service. And they love when people give acknowledgement to them for the service that they have provided. So these two professions indirectly become their natural inclination, which is politics and business. And you would see that a lot of seasoned politicians have very prominent cancer placements or are cancer risings. Now, it is not always necessary that a cancer person would eventually land up into business or into politics, as mentioned. There would be other placements that would suggest that that happens. But yes, they are more suited to do that. That is also true. And they get that inclination at a later age all the time, but not always that they would be able to manifest it. You can say that they would always have an inclination towards such things because they just love giving service to other people. And these professions naturally have a strong acknowledgement for the services that are given. Moreover, you would see that once these people have overcame their emotional biases, they become very manipulative. They know how to think from heart, they know how to think from mind. They always have learned how to think from heart initially in their lives, and as time progressed for them, they decided to start thinking from their minds. And once they decided to start thinking from their minds, they know exactly how to hurt other people or what the other people is expecting from them to listen about. And therefore, these qualities sum up to make them a splendid candidature to enter into politics or anything that involves mass mobilization in general as well. Moreover, because ninth from the Cancer is always ruled by Jupiter in form of Pisces, you would see that these people have a very natural knack for teaching because they love sharing their experiences with other people. They have been through a lot many a times, and therefore they take that as a self-imposed responsibility upon themselves that we want to share our experiences with other people so that they could benefit out of it. Now, it is completely different the way other people would consume this from them. That is not necessarily that this would be seen in a positive light. They might have the intention of helping out the other person, but the other person is taking it the wrong way. That is also possible. They might have the intention of actually misguiding the other person. That is also not ruled out because they become vengeful as well. Now, this is very much true for Cancer that they do keep grudges inside, and it is fundamentally very different from Scorpio. It is moreover because it is like a wound that was left unhealed in the past. Unlike a Scorpio who might think that vengeance and revenge is all about making sure that they heal from their wounds, a Cancer does not necessarily see vengeance as a heal from their wounds. Rather, they just simply feel that there is a need within them to be able to make the other person experience what mistakes they did. And sometimes it could lead to very problematic conditions because they would be driven by assumption bias that they are right. They would be driven by the assumption bias that they need to take the moral higher and compass in any situation. So let's say if whenever there would be a person who is not asking the Cancer person to sacrifice for them, they would still sacrifice for them. And because they have still sacrificed for the other person, they would still attach an expectation of acknowledgement from them. And when they are still attaching the expectation of acknowledgement, despite knowing that they are not going to get what they exactly want, the other person feels that the Cancer is trying to portray themselves like a person who is supposed to have a savior complex, somebody who would eventually and ultimately all the time try to be the protector for the other person. And this is fundamentally very different. I would say that this is a little bit of a needy complex which develops in the Cancer people. That they want to feel that they are needed in the other person's life and they can go miles and miles ahead just to ensure that. Many a times including, we cannot rule out that they do self sabotages during any situations, and then they have the habit of playing victim as well. So there are always flip sides. Everything that seems bright from far away is not necessarily always gold. And these are some fatal flaws that Cancer learns how to overcome later in their lives. Because if they don't learn it, anyhow, their vengeance is not very much complete, unlike other signs, let's say Scorpio, sometimes even Capricorn. So you would see that Cancer does not benefit from vengeance all that much the way they expect it. Because eventually they have a natural nurturing heart. So even post taking vengeance, they have this needy feeling that now I need to again help back the other person because they have transformed or created a need in their life once again by creating such circumstances. So you shouldn't practice that. That is something that you should avoid as a sign. Because moreover, that self sabotage hurts you as well, right? At the end of the day, you are trying to play this situation with somebody who you actually love quite a lot. So you need to eliminate this overthinking within you that if there is no need of you in somebody's life doesn't mean that they don't value you enough anymore. They would still value you quite a lot. You need to see and establish a new relationship with them. That relationship has to grow out of a dependency alone. A dependency on you is not a relation. It is a one sided infatuation many a times, and therefore you should not fall in love with everybody who is very much in need. You have this weird tendency in you because the seventh and eighth both away from Cancer is ruled by Saturn. You have this tendency in you that you like to attract yourself. In fact, you normally also attract a lot of toxic narcissistic people in your life. And the sooner you overcome this tendency, the better your mental health actually gets. So deal with things in a healthier way. Deal with relationships with boundaries in order to ensure that you feel a true sense of belonging and not something which you feel is typically accepted or being tolerated just in the name of love. That is one of the strongest reason. If somebody is a cancer, they should really think before committing to somebody or before tying the knot in form of a marriage, because they should go back to scratch and evaluate whether they are actually in love with the other person or not. I'll make a separate video about this entire stance, why particularly Cancer and Leos are more benefited and are better off marrying late in their life. But the idea being that the natural energy of Saturn over here, unlike what people are going to come and tell you, that makes you slightly emotionless, people will say, because Saturn has that natural energy. Actually, Saturn is what makes you so emotional about the other person. The reason you become so emotional about the other person is because you have invested so much into them that finally you feel so deeply hurt if any small change hurts the inertia which you have developed in form of an expectation of a behavior from the other person. So you don't give them room enough to be able to grow a relationship with you. Rather, you feel like that they should continue behaving in such a way that there is a dependency quotient upon you. And this becomes extremely unhealthy, to be frank. And that is what creates a lot of problem. So the problem is not always them alone. Many a times it is them as well. But there are certain tendencies within you also that you need to reevaluate. And this is true even for some Saturn heavy placement folks too. I'll make a separate video about that as well sometime around, but that is how things really navigate quite a lot of times for you people. All right, now let's understand what exactly Cancer really is so excited about. When we talk about physical pleasures involving Cancer, you would see, as I mentioned earlier also, for them the sense of belonging and the sense of commitment actually takes higher precedence over the satisfaction from physical pleasures. And moreover, they are people who would fantasize quite a lot of things. But in reality, they would prefer to keep it very neat and tidy and small in terms of their expectation of, bed and physical pleasures. Not literally small, don't take it the wrong way. But the idea being that a Cancer actually is very curious about the other person, but at the same time is very much, fearing from within that am I trying to find a sense of belonging with the wrong person? And they reevaluate this entirely, even when they are indulging into physical pleasures with somebody. And therefore, it's very important for them to first let their partner win their trust over them properly before being able to get that level of intimate with each other. That is how things really shape up over here. Moreover, you would see that in Cancer, there is always a tendency to have slightly higher than normal libido. Being ruled by Moon, lust comes very naturally to them. It is a myth, I would say, that everybody associates Moon with only purity. Moon is extremely receptive. Let's not forget that as well, right? So, when Moon is extremely receptive, if somebody takes an initiation of lust towards a Cancer person, they reciprocate that and they actually enjoy it as well quite a lot. The only problem associated with it is that they would become righteous about it because they are always on a dual mindset, with the 12 houses away from a Cancer being ruled by Gemini all the time. You would notice this, that they indulge into physical pleasures quite a lot. They fantasize about it quite a lot. But they get very double minded when somebody asks them or when they themselves introspect whether they are actually satisfied from it or not. For them, the vibe, the sense of belonging, the time spent together, the soft action, all that matters or takes higher precedence over all of this. And they are always double minded about it. Moreover, a Cancer is a person who likes to utilize their entire libido or their root chakra in general, the Muladhar, towards spirituality quite heavily as well. Though they are actually initially in life very double minded about spirituality, they have their own set of doubts, they have their own set of explorations, but because 9 away from Cancer is always Pisces, you would see that they are very much inclined to delve deeper into spirituality. These people really love spirituality quite a lot. I won't say they are God fearing because they have so much emotions that they are very God loving folks, and therefore they would believe in higher authority. They would believe in all the situations which are taught to them from higher learned people. They have actually excellent gurus. Many a times, if Jupiter doesn't support them, you would see that they are swayed away by people who are pretending to be gurus. And why does this happen? Because let's not forget, but both sixth and ninth away from Cancer, both are ruled by Jupiter. So many a times for them, it's very difficult to truly trust somebody as a guru completely. And therefore, they always have a quest of exploration when it comes to spirituality on their own, quiet often. You would This does not mean that they don't get the support of teachers. In fact, on the contrary, Cancer people usually are one of the favorite teacher pet material in classroom. You would notice this quite a lot, that the teacher has very good impressions about Cancer. Cancer folks are very particular about the image that they project in society. Very often you would see this in them, that no matter how cruel, how manipulative they might be from inside and in personal with somebody, when it comes to the image that has been projected towards society, they are seen as calm, they are seen as somebody who does not have any family issues, they are seen as somebody who is super learned and worthy of being an advisor. A lot of people will approach them for advice as well. But overall, the reality which they actually project into themselves is very stark. Cancer folks are often seen having a lot of family issues. They are seen in disagreements with their fathers. Many a times, that is what it actually makes them close to their mothers very often. If the mother is also slightly toxic, or let's say doesn't have the best of interest in their mind about the Cancer person, they get very dilemmatic about the choice of their parents to which they are more attached. And for a Cancer person, it's very difficult to say that I love both my parents equally. They would love either one of them definitely more, and they develop biases very fast. They would trust one of them definitely more than the other. And that is how things really operate and fundamentally function for them. And the chances of that parent being a mother is also of a higher probability always. So you would observe these traits in them. Moreover, rewards come very slowly to Cancer folks in life, because 11th away from Cancer, being ruled by Taurus and Earth sign, doesn't deprive them of reward, but things really function in a very slow fashion for them. And these people always rise at a later age compared to, people who might be more Martian or other signs that would rise up linearly. A Cancer person usually sees a very good rise and clarity about their life at a later age. That is one of the strong reasons, again, because with which they marry late, because it takes a lot of reiterations for them to be able to decide and come to the right choice as well. We always also say this, that wherever Cancer is placed in our chart, there is a lot of confusion ongoing about the themes of that particular house. So imagine if somebody is having a rising or a moon in Cancer, they would actually be more dilemmatic. They are confused about what is their purpose quite often. And it's difficult for them to, narrow down their purpose as well that easily. That is one of the reasons that 12 away from Cancer is Gemini. That is what makes them so dual about their purpose, their thought process, and everything takes a lot of evolution as well for them. And that is why it is good as well from the other flip side, if you see that they have experienced quite a lot of things in their life, right from love to material assets, to struggle to get those material assets, to struggle to establish a name for themselves. Many a times the Cancer people actually feel overshadowed by their families quite often. That serves as a very strong motivation within them to actually, rise up in their lives. But one thing that fundamentally separates a Cancer and a Leo person is the fact that the Leo person would want to satisfy their ego and would want to shine much more compared to their family. And many a times they would advocate that it is fine to take a separation from family. But a Cancer person takes care of a family like a self imposed moral responsibility upon themselves. But another interesting thing which a Cancer person should actually do, they should travel a lot of places, which is against their normal tendency, because usually they are very lethargic and lazy and love the comfort of homes. You won't see Cancer people outside homes very often. They are known to be very moody and cancelling plans in the last minute, and they fake it very beautifully. That is what I said, right? Their image is very important to them, so they won't admit that they are lying and they would make white lies on the face while canceling plans. And it is very innocuous also, it is very naive and innocent also, because they don't have any malice against you when they are canceling plans. It's just that they want to take a chill at home, and they are completely open if you self invite yourself to their houses. They are fine with that come and spend some time with me, we will have fun together. That is much more better than, going out to a restaurant and doing something impulsive of a different sort of a adventure. For them, the adventure is the sense of belonging that they have with the other person. They don't really mind the environment around that or the situation around that. The person matters more to them. So that is another interesting thing a Cancer should do in their lives, or rather, it is an ideal thing for the Cancer. Not necessarily it manifests for everybody though, is when they have taken a separation away from their home. Okay, they actually rise a lot in their lives. It is because they feel the need to accumulate the same set of resources that they have experienced in form of comfort at their homes. And when somebody deprive them of their homes, whether it is a circumstantial situation including a job relocation or it is for higher education, you would see Cancer is very suited for higher education as well. Or you would see that they are going away from their place to even pursue bachelor's alone, to a college or even schools. You would see that the Cancer person transforms a lot. Initially a lot of people might accuse the Cancer person of being spoiled, even though they have a very strong sense of responsibility towards their parents to fulfill, and yet people might call them spoiled. But once they have taken a separation from their home, the amount of responsibility this sign shows is an amazing level, and they truly evolve quite a lot. They become assets to the society because eventually they know and they internally wish to again accumulate the same set of resources to regain back the comfort which they have lost. And to do that, they make full use of their sixth and tenth houses, which are completely fire signs, and they make sure that they have, full rigor in terms of achieving their goals. And that is what really truly sets them apart quite often. So, as a Cancer, you should actually advocate the fact that be open to job relocations, be open to exploring new cultures, open yourself up to other communities and any active travels at the same time. Anything that forces you to step out of your comfort zone is actually going to work out in your favor. But another important thing, during childhood, a Cancer person should not be deprived of their home and their homeland in general. and even their mother and father. The simple reason being that during this time period, whenever childhood is there, because you are ruled by moon, this is a very sensitive time period for Cancer people. And they develop some fundamental ideas about society. They develop thoughts and notions within their minds, and these notions become very rigid. And if these notions are negatively formed, such as there is a deprivation of love from parent, or such a child who is so sensitive is sent to hostel at an early age, where they're having very huge amount of issues in forming friends and finding a true sense of belonging, obviously. In that scenario, that becomes a very heavy emotion that is stored, or you would say that buried in your subconscious for a very long time. And that PTSD stays with you for a very, very long time when you become an adult, and you project that indirectly on other people, and you fear a lot of things because of these experiences. And therefore, during the initial childhood days, I would say till they are studying in school, these people deserve and need a lot of love. They need to experience what a comfort zone, what resources look like. And once they have experienced, then only they can actually use that as a reinforced motivation at a later point in time, right? When it is time for them to take up responsibilities. So these people should actually be loved quite a lot. Moreover, if you have a Cancer friend, you would notice this in them very easily, that they are very motherly. They would scold you for your shortcomings, they would motivate you, they actively take trauma dumps from you many a times. Many a times you are trauma dumping on them even when they don't deserve it, or they are not in the right state of mind. So, if somebody actually has a Cancer friend, they should cherish that a lot. And if you are a Cancer yourself, you should realize this very strongly, that you would be missed by the other person quite a lot as well. Don't try to question your self esteem just because one or two iterations of connections have faded away in your life. You are bound to find somebody who is truly the right person for you. And you need to enjoy this process instead of lamenting about it. The more sooner you stop lamenting about this, the sooner you are embracing the detachment energies of your seventh house. And let's not forget that seventh house, apart from all the business partnerships, relationships, also shows success in whatever things you want to pursue, in whatever things you actually do in your life. It shows something that is complement to yourself, your individuality, to your first house. And when something is complement and you have achieved that, that truly means that you have become successful. And this success comes late to you. So you should grind towards that success, and you should not fear, or stop putting effort in a certain direction expecting instant gratification. Always remember that you are bound to have an exponential rise in your life, and you should really look at the bigger picture rather than focusing on the shortcomings and immediate gratifications. So that is all I would say I would like to cover about the Cancer folks. Of course, feel free to comment your own experiences. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. That would mean quite a lot to me. And definitely look forward to me analyzing other zodiac signs as well for you. We would go in depth for them as well. Until then, bye bye to all of you. Thank you.